Well, my friend, if you are suffering from depersonalization, derealization, anxiety, or depression, or whatever mental health situation you are in right, and you think that your past, your fear, and your trauma has set your brain just like a rock, and that it cannot be changed and it became rigid, I just want to let you know, my friend, that you are just wrong, as the early 20th century scientists used to be. The then-on scientists to say that, the brain cannot change. Once you get past your child and you become an adult, it is something that it sets into stone. But this idea is not selling in the market anymore, my friend. And why is that? Because there is a new idea, and that is our brain is an organic, it's a living thing that is constantly reshaping, it's constantly rewiring, and it's rebuilding itself moment by moment. And that idea is nothing but the idea of neuroplasticity. And this is where we get hope from. Because if you are suffering from anxiety and you had no anxiety before, that means that your brain has changed from point A to point B. If you have DPDR now and you had no DPDR before, if you have panic disorder now and you had no panic disorder before, that means that your brain has changed. And that very principle of the brain, that it can change, can be used to rewire the brain from having panic to no panic, from having DPDR to becoming DPDR free, and from having depression to having no depression at all. To let you know, my friend, becoming a black cab taxi driver in this London city is not an easy thing to do. You gotta know all these complex route, landmarks, and the streets, and they call it the knowledge. And my friend, Dr. Eleanor, a neuroscientist from University College London, was really wondering, if experience could shape our brain, then what is in that case for the black cab taxi driver? And what she did is she did MRI scans of the black cab taxi drivers, and she compared that to people who didn't drive a taxi. And what she found out was really astonishing. She found that the taxi drivers' hippocampus, the posterior part of the hippocampus, became larger in compared to the normal people. And that is the exact region of the brain which is responsible for memory, processing, and navigation. And guess what? More fascinating thing is that the more the drivers drove, the larger was the hippocampus. And that's a living proof of the fact that what we practice is what we become. And our brain changes on a physical level as well. Guess what? It's not only about the London taxi drivers. Dr. Edwards, when he was working at the University of Alabama with some stroke survivors, those stroke survivors lost movement on one side of their body. And most of the doctors thought that these patients lost all these abilities forever and they're not gonna come back, until Dr. Edward saw something strange. He saw that when these patients were forced to do some activities with the weaker part, there was a little change, there was some improvement. And later on, as he moved deep with his work, he came out with his profound therapy known as constraint-induced movement therapy, where basically he would sling the stronger part of the body. Say, for example, the right arm is the stronger one. He would sling that and let the left arm, the weaker part of the body, do the day-to-day activities. And with every hour, with every days and weeks, the arm slowly started gaining its power back. And when the neuroimaging was done, found out that the damaged part of the brain reassigned this motor work to the healthy one. So that proves, my friend, that even with repetition and right approach and the proper setup, the damaged brain can also heal or reassign the other areas of the brain to carry out the same function. It's not that you need to use your hands and legs in order to change your brain, my friend. You know what? Dr. Sarah, when she was at Harvard University, she brought long-term meditators who meditated for years, and she carried out a brain scan, and she found out that the long-term meditators had shrunk amygdala. There was less activity out there on the fear circuitry of the brain of the long-term meditators, and there was more gray matter out there on the prefrontal cortex, where the rational thinking takes part. So that's another proof, my friend, that you can literally change your brain with your thoughts, with the mental actions. And there are other neuroplasticity tools which you can incorporate to literally change and rewire your anxious brain, your depressed brain, or your DPDR brain. So now therefore you know that the brain is constantly changing. And you also know that if you do something on a repeated basis, if you do an action over and over again, neurons associated to that action, they fire together and they wire together and they create a stronger neural pathway, and this is how there becomes a rigid structure. So this very principle can go against you as well, my friend. If you are stuck in an anxious loop, if you are stuck in a horror story, and if you are doing the things that you shouldn't be doing on a repeated basis, if you're thinking the wrong thoughts, if you are allowing yourself to stay in the negative cycle of anxiety, panic, and DPDR, then you are strengthening the neural pathways associated to that fear circuitry, my friend. It's a matter of decision whether you want to know how to reshape your brain, how to rewire your brain, how to reprogram your brain to a place where you could say that finally I'm free from the shackles of DPDR.